at least two still negotiating to testify, as House Democrats are considering some pretty extreme measures to try to protect that witness, using a remote location, limiting how many staff and members could be present, even disguising the whistleblower's appearance and voice. That's how worried they are about the safety of the person who made the complaint at the center of the impeachment inquiry. And the president, well, definitely isn't helping. He's railing tonight about what he insists was a perfect call.
The call was a perfect call. You had stenographers, you had people that took it down exactly. It was a perfect call. It's just a scam. This is a scam by the Democrats to try and win an election that they're not going to win in 2020.
And the fact is, remember, facts first, the transcript the White House released was not verbatim. It wasn't verbatim. But what the president said there tells you what he is really worried about. He's worried that a Democrat could defeat him in 2020. And let's remember, all this comes with former EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland set to testify before 3 House committees in a matter of hours, behind closed doors. The ambassador is a big-time Republican donor who gave $1 million to the Trump Inauguration Committee. So his testimony could really be crucial in all of this. All of this as the subpoenas are coming fast and furious, really. House Democrats warning they'll subpoena 3 Rudy Giuliani associates if they don't cooperate. John Dowd, not at all coincidentally, the president's former lawyer, now representing 2 of those Giuliani associates, as you would expect, objecting to the documents requested and the time frame. Giuliani has already been subpoenaed. The deadline for him to turn over documents is next Tuesday. And the subpoenas, well, they just keep rolling in. Democrats expanding the impeachment inquiry into brand new corners of the federal government today with subpoenas to the Pentagon and to the Office of Management and Budget. Congress demanding information on the decision to freeze foreign aid to Ukraine. And in the face of all of this, with the impeachment inquiry looming at a time when any other president would maybe be a little more careful about what he or she says or puts in writing, this president tweets this about his abrupt decision to pull U.S. troops from northern Syria ahead of the upcoming Turkish invasion. Quote, "If Turkey does anything that I, in my great and unmatched wisdom, consider to be off limits, I will totally destroy and obliterate the economy of Turkey." And his great and unmatched wisdom. He actually tweeted those words. And remember, this White House has told us that the president's tweets are official statements. Great and unmatched wisdom. Where have I heard something like that before?
I am the chosen one. What you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening. We're talking about an invasion of our country. I alone can fix it. You have corrupt media in this country, and it truly is the enemy of the people. I'm a very stable genius.
It might be funny if it were anybody else. But this is the president of the United States. And you know who he's talking about? He's talking about a tin-pot dictator. He's talking like, a tin-pot dictator. A man who's apparently never met a dictator he didn't like.
I get along with a lot of people. I have a tremendous relationship with President Xi. I get along with President Putin. I get along with Mohammed from Saudi Arabia. President Erdogan. He's tough, but I get along with him.
Yep. President Xi, Vladimir Putin, Mohammed bin Salman, and President Erdogan. He forgot Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader. He says he fell in love. Remember? He said that. The President of the United States says he gets along with all of them, one brutal autocrat after another. Kind of makes you wonder why, doesn't it? The president pretty defensive tonight with the impeachment investigation going ahead at a dizzying pace.
Well, we've been in Syria for a long time, and it was supposed to be a very short hit. and hit on ISIS, but it didn't work out that way. They never left. I spoke with President Erdogan of Turkey, and I said, got to treat them good. You got to take care of ISIS.
So the president upsetting his own allies right when he needs them most, right when he's got his back against the wall. The Majority Leader Mitch McConnell urging the president to backtrack, saying this, and I quote here, "A precipitous withdrawal of U.S. forces from Syria would only benefit Russia, Iran, and the Assad regime." And if that's not strong enough, there is this from the president's opponent turned ally, Lindsey Graham.
This impulsive decision by the president has undone all the gains we've made, thrown the region into further chaos. Iran is licking their chops. And if I'm an ISIS fighter, I've got a second lease on life. I hope I'm making myself clear how short-sighted and irresponsible this decision is, in my view.
Yep, that's pretty clear. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley tweeting, "The Kurds were instrumental in our successful fight against ISIS in Syria. Leaving them to die is a big mistake." The president even being slammed by some of his most reliable defenders, evangelicals. Pat Robertson laying it on the line.
The President of the United States is in danger of losing the mandate of heaven if he permits this to happen.
Don't forget, Pat Robertson stood by then-candidate Trump in the wake of the infamous Access Hollywood tape, which was released 3 years ago tonight.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Wow, that's been 3 years. While Republicans may be growing a spine on Syria, their new independence doesn't seem to extend to calling the president out on his public demand for China to investigate Joe Biden. Their latest strategy is all just a joke.
I don't think it's a real request. I think, again, I think he did it to gig you guys.
I doubt if the China comment was serious, to tell you the truth.
You really think he was serious about thinking that China's going to investigate the Biden family?
All that, and we're not even 2 weeks into this impeachment inquiry. And after grumbling in the White House that there is no real strategy, sources tell CNN, the re-election team is trying to take over now, under the heading of telling the boss exactly what he wants to hear. Mick Mulvaney reportedly predicted in a senior staff meeting at the White House last week that the president will win 45 states in 2020 if he's impeached by the House. And like I said, that tells us exactly what this president is afraid of in the face of the impeachment investigation. There are a handful of Republicans speaking out against the president on Syria, but why aren't there more on Ukraine? That is a question for, there he is, former Governor John Kasich. Next. As the impeachment inquiry widens, President Trump's raging at House Democrats, but claiming he's thriving.
What they did to this country is unthinkable. And it's lucky that I'm the president because I guess, I don't know what, a lot of people said very few people could handle it. I sort of thrive on it.
Well, a lot to discuss tonight. John Kasich, the former Republican governor of Ohio, is here. Sir, good evening to you. So,
Hello, Don.
We've been talking. The president says that he is thriving on impeachment, but at the same time, he's getting huge backlash from some of his staunchest Republican allies for his decision on Syria at a time when he needs their support even more than ever. Do you think he weakened himself even further, or you think this won't matter?
Well, it's kind of hard for me to say, Don. I guess I would say that they're rolling their eyes and all that, but, that's not enough to get them to, step up the plate and, say, well, there ought to be an inquiry. There ought to be an investigation. We ought to get to the bottom of this. We ought to figure out what all the facts are. We're not hearing that. I mean, so, the Syria thing threw them off because, the Kurds have they've helped us in Iraq. They're, obviously been fighting with us in Syria. And so that's, and I'm glad they've spoken out, but I don't know that you could link the two.
Okay, so then
they're rolling their eyes. They probably roll their eyes all the time.
So you said we're not hearing that. Should we be hearing that?
Well, what I'm saying is people out here, I spent the weekend talking to a lot of people. The reason why a lot of these congressmen and senators aren't saying anything is because they get heat from their constituents, but they don't get heat from their constituents who are Republicans that say, hey, we need to get to the bottom of this. And
is that because the Republicans, maybe is it the chicken or the egg? I mean, is it because they're not saying anything? Because they have a duty to inform and to represent the people who are back home? Maybe it's because it's being spun by the conservative media that there's nothing there. And most of all, the biggest conspiracy theorists of all, the President of the United States, maybe they're not actually hearing it. Maybe as they have a duty as servants of the Constitution to tell the folks out there that this is wrong what the president actually did on the call. Read the transcript.
Well, you're asking me why, and I'm giving you an answer. Of course they ought to be saying there ought to be an investigation and get to the bottom of this.
Thank you.
I mean, just to not sound repetitive, when the president calls a foreign leader and says, I want you to do an investigation on my political opponent. Now, some have come out and said they think that it was wrong that he said that. But really, what's at the bottom of it? We're in the middle of, well, we're not even in the middle of the movie. We're a quarter, maybe more than that in the middle of the movie. And everybody had demand, okay, what are the facts so that we can get to the end of the movie and figure out where we are? I'm just trying to make the point to you, Don, that I don't find a lot of Republicans who are coming out and saying, we used to have an investigation. I hear this. It's a blip. I hear, well, all politicians do this stuff. You hear that all the time. I mean, that's what I hear. Now, that's why it's incumbent on the Democrats to lay out a very strong case where people who are out here watching this say, because you're never going to get a big number of Republicans. You didn't have a big number of Republicans when they went after Nixon. You didn't get Democrats when they went after Clinton. But you have to get to the point.
This is not something. Got to get to the. But hang on. This is not something that all politicians do. All politicians do not call on a foreign country to help them out in their reelection.
No,
process.
I know that. No,
right.
I agree with you.
So,
I agree with that. But I'm saying, but you got to make the case has got to be so clear about how wrong this is, so that people who are reasonable Republicans, you heard what Colin Powell said, the Republican Party needs to get a grip on itself. We need the Colin Powells. We need the senior statespeople.
You're making the point, John. You're making the point that I made to you. Maybe it's incumbent upon the politicians, the people who are actually leaders, to tell the people exactly what's going on instead of having the president and his apologists shape a message that is not true. Because anybody with half a brain who read that transcript knows exactly what the president was saying. It is obvious. It's not nebulous. It's not like, well, maybe he meant that. You know exactly what he meant. All you have to do is read it.
And wait. You can't say stuff like that.
Yes, you can.
You can't say that. There are people that read that transcript.
John, did you read the transcript?
Disagreement of what it means.
John, did you read the transcript?
Yeah, I read the transcript.
Were you confused by what it meant? Do you have any?
Well, I will tell you this. In reading that transcript, I did not see a clear quid pro quo. We talked about this the day it came out. And what I'm saying to you is I think this is serious. There should be an investigation. We should have all these witnesses. We ought to get to the bottom line and see if we can establish that.
John, if you asked me to do something, if you said, Don, I need something from you, and I said to you, John, yes, but I need you to do me a favor, though. What does that mean?
Answer
my question, John. No, John. Answer, John.
I'm just
Please answer my question.
I think that's.
Then you're doing exactly what the apologists are doing.
You are
not helping people
and they're
John,
honest
then
people.
You're not helping people understand the real problem. Then you are part of the problem.
Oh, listen, I've told people. Wait a minute. I've told people that. I'm going to tell you what I told people. Let me say this. I told a guy the other day in church. I said, listen to me. When the President of the United States is asking a foreign leader to do something that digs up dirt on a political opponent, this is a serious matter. You know what he says? Oh, they all do it. I'm just trying to say to you.
And did you say no, they don't all do it? Did you say no, they don't all do it?
Of course I said that. Of course they don't all do it. We've never seen anything like this before. Now, I'm suggesting to you that if you have an impeachment that doesn't bring the Republicans or some semblance of Republicans along, and this is done strictly along party line votes, that is going to end up not helping this country. That's my view.
Okay, all I'm saying, John, listen, all I'm saying,
I think we got to get to the bottom of this.
I respect that. But all I'm saying is, do you think a bunch of Democrats are going to convince a bunch of Republicans that you're talking to out? Do you think they're going to convince?
No,
so who's going to do the convincing that this is not right?
I'm not talking about a bunch. Look, let me tell you, in the Watergate deal, the Republicans finally looked at the evidence and they went down to the White House and said, you got to go. I'm just suggesting to you that it has to be simple, it has to be clear, and some Republicans, you're never going to get a lot of them, but some.
Finish it.
Some Republicans have to say, you got a good point, and the guy's done the wrong thing. You got to build that case, Don Lemon.
All right, this is how I feel.
That's my opinion.
I think that the Republicans now would look at the information in the Nixon era and say there's nothing there. That's where we are now. It's the same thing. It is clear that it is there.
I have more faith. I think Republicans, Don, are fully capable of concluding that what was done here was wrong. I think
the
they're
silence
capable
is
of doing
deafening.
that. That's my view.
If they're fully, then they're.
Yeah, it is now, but
It's deafening.
Let's get to
So
the
when
end
are
of
they
the
gonna do
movie and
it?
see how it turns out.
When are they going to do it?
When the Democrats are done with the inquiry and they present
It's incumbent
their evidence,
upon the
that's
Democrats
when,
to
the
make
way,
the Republicans do the right thing. All right, John. I got to go. Thank you, buddy. See you next time. Most Republicans defending President Trump. The president's defenders on Capitol Hill and on Fox News have a similar strategy on the impeachment inquiry, saying things that are just plain out there. To discuss now, Wajahat Ali, Max Boot. Max is the author of The Corrosion of Conservatism, Why I Left the Right. Gentlemen, so good to see you. Let's see if this can be a little bit more productive. I love John, but that was interesting to listen to.
I got to say, Don, I'm with you. I don't see how. I have a lot of respect for John Kasich. I don't see how he can say there is no quid pro quo when A, it's spelled out in the transcript, and B, remember last week we got the text messages from the diplomats saying that Ukraine was not going to get a meeting with Trump. They were not going to get aid unless they investigated Joe Biden. I mean, that's in the text from the diplomats. So that's the quid pro quo. The evidence is there.
Yeah, I don't want to beat up on him. He's not here to defend himself, so I don't want to beat up on him. But I don't see how anybody can see it any other way. The president is defending his decision to pull troops from Syria. Let's talk Syria, and then we'll talk other things.
Sure.
So he's defending himself to pull troops from Syria. He tweeted that it was his great and unmatched wisdom that he had, right? Is this a declaration of someone that has a TV network praising his every move, you think?
I mean, this is just crazy. I can't figure out anybody in Washington who thinks this is a good idea. Trump is betraying our allies, the Kurds, who have bled and died to defeat ISIS. He is handing a gift to this dictator Erdogan, who is not pro-American. He is anti-American. He's playing footsie with Iran and Russia, and yet Trump is eager to do him a favor, and it's hard to figure out any legitimate reason why he is doing this. Now, what's striking to me, Don, is that I see a lot of Republicans actually attacking Trump for doing this and selling out the Kurds, and that's appropriate. I think that's good that they're attacking him. But what I don't understand is why are they attacking Trump for selling out the Kurds, and they're not attacking Trump for selling out the U.S. Constitution? I just don't get that.
Yeah. Wajahat, I want you to listen to this is Republican Senator Ron Johnson citing conspiracy theories to defend the president's request for foreign powers to investigate his political rivals. Here it is.
And so what President Trump's had to endure, a false accusation. By the way, you've got John Brennan on. You ought to ask Director Brennan, what did Peter Strzok mean when he texted Lisa Page on December 15, 2016? I'm here to report today that unlike the narrative of the press that President Trump wants to dig up dirt on his 2020 opponent, what he wants is an accounting of what happened in 2016. Who set him up? Did things spring from Ukraine?
Do you not trust the FBI? You don't trust the CIA?
No,
I'm just very confused here.
Absolutely not.
Wajahat, listen, he's mentioning people who are no longer at any of those agencies. He is parroting conspiracy theories that have been cultivated on Fox News, many of them debunked. Does truth just not matter anymore? What is happening?
As Rudy Giuliani said, truth isn't truth, right? And Trump said, don't believe your eyes and don't believe what you listen. And this is like a dictator playbook 101. You first attack the truth, Don Lemon. You attack all the institutions. You say, I am your leader. Trust me and only me. Whoever's critical against me, they are the enemy. Does that sound familiar? Because he says that the press is the enemy of the people. And you just saw Ron Johnson, Senator, Republican, who, by the way, knows better because he sits on the Senate Homeland Security Committee. And in 2016, he's the one who wrote a bipartisan letter asking then President of Ukraine to crack down on corruption. So actually, that senator has actually bolstered Biden and the Democrats and debunked the conspiracy theory because he has himself said that Biden and Western allies were putting pressure on Ukraine to go against the prosecutor general, who was not going against corruption, right? But then you saw the Faustian bargain right there, how so many Republican men and women have sold out their honor, their dignity, and I will say their country for Trump. He is repeating a deep state conspiracy theory. That's QAnon, which, by the way, and this is what's really serious, the FBI, according to a Yahoo document that they uncovered, is saying that QAnon and conspiracy theories like the one mentioned by Senator Johnson about this deep state, about law enforcement against Trump, is now a domestic terror threat. They're saying leading up to 2020, they fear that these conspiracy theories will mobilize individuals and groups to violence, like the Pizzagate conspiracy theory of 2016. Remember that? When that guy showed up with a gun here in D.C. because he thought that Hillary Clinton and Democrats had a child sex ring in a D.C. pizzeria? That's what we're dealing with. And QAnon now is at Trump rallies, and deep state conspiracy theories are spouted by Republican senators. It's serious business.
Thank you both. That's all we have time for. We could continue this for a long time, but I appreciate it.
Sorry about that, Max.
No, that's all right. Max got his turn as well. Thank you very much. One former UN ambassador said today that President Trump's decision to end Syria amounts to, quote, leaving our allies to die. Trump's former UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, that's who said it. Mind you, that is the kind of thing his supporters are saying. Reaction from former DNI James Clapper next. Like pulling U.S. troops out of northern Syria. And Republicans are up in arms. Let's bring in now James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence. We always love having you on. Thank you, sir. Good to see you. Republican backlash to the president's decision was swift, okay? The majority leader, Mitch McConnell, says it would only benefit Russia, Iran, and the Assad regime. Senator Graham called Trump's decision short-sighted and irresponsible. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley says it leaves U.S. allies to die. Congresswoman Liz Cheney called it an undeserved gift to the Erdogan regime. Why does this decision have even the president's supporters up in arms?
Well, actually, Don, I was quite taken aback by this rare criticism on the part of prominent Republicans. And I think the reason is because taking this action is really egregious. First of all, the whole point of our aligning with the Kurds was to fight ISIS, which is not, to disagree with the president, is not defeated. And our small presence there to train and assist the Kurds also served as a bulwark against the Turks taking them on. Well, now we're going to give free rein to the Turks, who consider all Kurds as terrorists, even though the Kurds are many political stripes. The PKK specifically is regarded by the Turks as a terrorist group, but they just like to consider all Kurds as terrorists. So this, the president likes to claim that we're more respected now than ever. Well, on the contrary, all this is going to do is cause people to question our word and not trust us. And here are the Kurds, who did everything we asked them to do. They did all the heavy lifting, took thousands of casualties, basically at our behest. And this is what we're doing to them. So it's terrible, and I hope this is a harbinger of things to come in terms of Republicans speaking out.
What is happening on these calls with foreign leaders? I mean, the Washington Post had another example about a call Trump had with Peru's president, where Trump promised that he would deliver a military cargo plane overnight, leaving the Pentagon and the West Wing scrambling. I mean, a mere impossibility. What is going on here?
Well, I've been reading all these media reports about the nature of the phone calls with foreign leaders that I think the Washington Post did a piece on this about how horrified White House staffers were. And, I was recalling when I was in the Obama administration and every few weeks I'd get a batch of memos of record of phone conversations that President Obama was having with foreign leaders, and they were characteristically boring because they were all kind of pre-scripted, pre-choreographed, pre-staffed, and they were pretty benign, vanilla things. And of course, our stable genius, kind of operates off the top of his head, and makes commitments and says things that turn out to be difficult to follow up. And it'd be almost amusing if it weren't so serious.
Well, I mean, in his unmatched wisdom, are you worried about the president's increasing unpredictability as this impeachment inquiry intensifies?
I am, Don. I mean, with all the other concerns that we have in the world today, and we're so consumed with this impeachment inquiry and all the follow-all that goes along with that, and clearly the president, it's hard for him to concentrate on anything else, or when he does, for briefly, he makes some impetuous move like ordering our troops out of Syria. So it just seems as though the more pressure that's building up here, the more irrational and impetuous he becomes. So this is not good for the security of the country, in my opinion.
Director, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
The impeachment inquiry expanding as House Democrats consider extreme measures to protect the whistleblower's identity. Why they're so worried? That's next. Welcome back. There's so much more to our major story tonight as President Trump faces the prospect of impeachment. Now I'm going to bring in my friend Laura Coates. She is hosting a special hour tonight, The White House in Crisis, the impeachment inquiry coming up right after this show at 11. So, Laura, the president talked today about his, quote, great and unmatched wisdom. But today, one court rejected the view of the presidential power that the president's lawyers are using in his defense. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I guess that great and mighty wisdom is actually maybe a problem now. But Don, I think the most significant legal development of the day, it happened 200 miles outside of the Beltway, outside of Washington, D.C. I spent the whole afternoon reading through a 75-page decision from a federal judge in New York. And it's a really tough rebuke of the whole Justice Department. And it actually might just strike fear in the heart of this administration and the president himself. And the case is likely going to end up before the Supreme Court. And mind you, it could very well become one of those cases that defines the entire presidency. So you got to stick around because tonight we're going to have something really special for you. At the top of the hour, I'm going to be joined by Jeffrey Toobin and David Gregory, and the three of us will take you through the biggest legal and political developments in the entire impeachment inquiry. It's going to be great.
Powerhouse legal and political minds. I will be tuning in. Thank you, Laura. The impeachment inquiry now spreading into new areas of the federal government as House Democrats consider